A very warm welcome to all the participants to our Reboot Your Mind session. I welcome today's speaker, Ms. Usha Madan, to our session today. And today's session is about knowing your own emotions, understanding what is emotional quotient, and also learning some strategies on how to manage stress. Today, Prameya is conducting its 8th online Prameya awareness program. And before we start, we would like to show you a short video on what we do at Prameya. Video, please.
Krupa, you have to unmute.
Am I audible now?
Yeah. Better.
With a brief introduction to Prameya, now I would like to introduce today's expert. Ms. Usha Madan is a counselor and a psychotherapist. She has an MSc in genetics and an MS in counseling and psychotherapy. She also has a diploma in counseling skills. She's a consulting psychotherapist at Prameya Health, and she's a counselor at Deepika, which is a special school. She is also a resource person for parenting workshops at Purna Pragna Institute. And she's also a teaching faculty at IRC. It's a pleasure to have you, ma'am, to do this session today. A very warm welcome to you. With that brief introduction, I would like to read out a couple of instructions for today's session. We have muted all the participants and switched off the videos just to ensure better audio and video quality. And question and answer will start soon after the experts speak. So kindly type in the questions in the chat window. We'll definitely take it up. With that instructions, I think I'll hand it over to today's expert, Usha ma'am. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, thumbs up. Let us start this session with a small note about what is this session. As Krupa said, what is this session is all about. We all know that health is very important. We always hear a lot of things, and we also try out to be very healthy ourselves. But sometimes we fail to understand there are different components for the overall health. That is, it has 4 major components. One is the physical well-being, the second one is intellectual or the cognitive well-being, and the third one is mental intellectual well-being. The third one is physiological well-being, where our organ systems are working very well. And the fourth one, but not the least, last but not the least, is our emotional well-being. Actually, this is very, very important. Many theories and many research have proven that beyond doubt, even if a person is physiologically and physically healthy, if they are not having emotional well-being, they suffer a lot. They won't be that productive. They won't be that efficient in their personal life. And emotional well-being is very, very important. And the plus point is, like any other health aspect, even the emotional health and emotional well-being can be taken care of, and they can be sustained, and they can be enhanced. With this small note, let us try to understand what is emotion is all about, and as individuals, how we can take care of our own emotional well-being. To start with, let us have one small activity, which I will relate it to the later part of the session, just to make our understanding clear. So I want all of you, I think Rupa has already informed you to have a pen and a paper, or you can start writing in the chat window. Just take maximum 30 seconds, okay? Just 30 seconds. No need to think too much. Whatever comes to your mind, you please just jot it down. Okay, so I just want to know what is your understanding of thoughts and feelings. Or one of the volunteer can volunteer, one of the participants can volunteer to explain that. That is also welcome. If anybody can volunteer. Do you know the difference between thoughts and feelings? Or at least do we know that thoughts and feelings are different? Anybody from the participants who can volunteer?
Ma'am, the thought is today's session has started off well.
Okay.
And
feeling?
Feeling is comfortable.
Yeah, feeling relaxed, comfortable, no
Yes.
anxiety. Okay, wonderful. So this is how we differentiate between thoughts and feelings. So I request all of you to put down your thoughts at this given moment. What is the thought crossing your mind, and what is the feeling you are experiencing?
Ma'am, one Miss Sonali also wants to share something. I
Yes,
think it's
please.
about her
Yeah.
thoughts and feelings.
Yes, please. Yes, Sonali. She's there?
Maybe she needs to type in.
Okay.
Maybe we can take her up in the next activity.
Okay, then I'll take it on. No, take it up. Okay, you can read it out for me once she finishes writing. Is it fine?
Hi, Sonali. Are you able to speak?
Yes. Actually, I was unmuted. I'm so sorry for that.
No problem.
No. Yeah. So, good morning, ma'am.
Actually,
I feel thoughts and feelings are different and plus very much interrelated also.
Very true. Very true. Yeah.
So the thought is like, what will happen? What will happen? I don't know what to do. So then, feelings of anxiety, fear.
Now, at this moment, Sonali, what is the thought you are having in your mind? Let us make it more individual specific.
Ma'am,
what is the thought?
I'm going to be empowered by the session. The session
is. What is the feeling?
Strong. Then
kind of strong in what sense? With reference to what?
Strong with my emotions, dealing with them properly.
No, this given moment, at this second, at this minute.
Yeah.
Fraction of a minute. What is the feeling you have sitting in your room or wherever you are? What is your feeling?
Comfortable, ma'am. Great.
Relaxed, comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Or anticipation. What this session is going to be at the end of the session, what do I have to take away? Take home with me, right?
Yeah, ma'am.
Like that? Okay, wonderful. So this is how. So you got two examples to understand. Thoughts and feelings are very much interrelated, but they are different. And it is better if we develop the skill of segregating thoughts from the feelings. Okay, let me explain how it helps in our emotional regulations later on. The second question is, all of you please define yourself using one adjective on the paper or in the chat window. How do you define yourself using one adjective? Just one adjective. Fast. I give you 20 seconds. Done? Emotional.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
There are two participants.
Okay, confused, emotional.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. So this is called as self-image in psychology. So what kind of image I have about myself? The adjectives you use, all of you use now to describe yourself is the self-concept, self-image. Okay. Then moving on to the next one, I will take all this little in depth in the next sessions. Now to start with, okay, just to know where do we stand when it comes to our emotional understanding. Then one nature of yours you are proud of, and one nature of yours you want to work on? Fast. Just 2 words. So one nature of yours or your strength which you are very proud of, make a note of that. And one nature of yours, it may be a behavior or a character or anything, personality type, which you think you need to work on. Wonderful. Okay. I think I'm clear. All of you are getting what I'm trying to tell? Okay. Then moving on to the next question. One behavior of yours in the past in reference to the environment or a person which you regret or you feel proud of. Let me make it very clear. Go back to your past. Think of a person or a situation. With reference to that person or the situation, one of your behavior you expressed, which makes you regret or which makes you feel good. You can write it down or you can keep it in your mind because it is a little sensitive question. But still you are safe because I'm not asking you to name the person. Okay? Right. So one behavior of yours in the past which makes you, when you think of it, which makes you feel proud or which makes you regret. Then the next question is, what do you think people perceive you as? Or do you know, do you have any idea how people perceive you? Just write one sentence about it or one phrase, one word again. Okay, being patient, proud that it has, okay, that is about the past, fine. Now let us move on to the next question. Am I too fast? Should I slow down a bit? Okay, they think I'm people think I'm stubborn. Many answers popping up. Wonderful. Okay. So now, just now what you answered, the questions I asked are all about questions related to self-awareness. The first one is where we asked you to differentiate between thought and feeling, is the question where we need to know this creates a kind of understanding and insight about our own self so that we know how to manage our thoughts and emotions, because most of our behavior are dependent on these two components. Okay, so unless I know the difference between thoughts and feelings, my behavior will be sometimes questionable. The second question, define yourself using one adjective, is all about it reflects your self-awareness. If I know exactly how to define myself, that means I am aware of myself. The third one is the question what I asked about, write one strength about which you are proud and the other one which you want to work on, reflects on your strengths, you being aware of your strengths and your limitation. That is again self-awareness. And the third one is one behavior of yours in the past which made you to regret when you think of it now, or which made you to feel proud about it, clearly shows that you are also sensitive to someone, because I asked you to do it with reference to a person. That means you are sensitive to others' feelings and you could also introspect, which is very important when it comes to emotional regulation. And the next question what I asked was, what do you think of people's perception about you? This is all about social image or the self-image. So these are the components which we need to work on, which we need to be aware of when we have to have a balanced emotional approach in our life towards ourselves and towards others. So with this small briefing, let us move on to understand, define, and understand the different components of emotions. Next slide, please. Next slide. Then psychological, the feelings which generated inside our mind, and these are all associated with our physiological reactions. That is, suppose there is an event and I get very upset about a person, that becomes I'm angry, I don't like this person. That is the thought process. The feeling is anger associated with that, and the action is either I can move out of the place or I can very badly react to that person or condemn him and put him down. That is my action or the behavior. And the physiological aspect related to that is my BP may increase, my palpitation may increase, or I may sweat, or I may clench my fist. So these are all the physiological reactions associated to emotions. So at a given time, all these things happens within a fraction of a second. So the complexity of the emotion is it has all these subtle or hidden components which many a time we don't understand, but if you master the art of understanding this, our life becomes easier. Moving on to the next slide. So let us try to understand what are the components of emotions. Or before that, let us try to understand little more about emotions and their characteristics. Emotions are spontaneous and dynamic. That means it is not like a tap where you can open it whenever you want and close it whenever you don't want. So that means they are not in our control. Emotions are very spontaneous and dynamic, and they should not be labeled as good and bad, because emotions are very genuine and very sacred. It is very spontaneous and dynamic. So there is no point in telling this is a bad emotion and the good emotion. Only thing option we have is the consequence or the responses associated to their emotions can be socially or personally acceptable or not acceptable. That's it. Then you're not your emotions. That means I'm not my emotion. Many a time we do the mistake of judging a person or understanding a person based on the emotions they express, which is not right, because emotions are just the part of the personality. Then we can choose the response. Yes, even if we don't have control on the emotions generated in us, but we do have control on the expression of our emotions. This is very, very important, and we can't ask people to forgive us telling I didn't have control on my expression. We don't have control on our emotions, but we do have control on our responses, and it impacts our life. I think we all have understood that emotions play a very major role in our life with respect to ourselves, our own internal relationship, intra-relationship, or with the external environment and people. Moving on to the next slide. So we understood what is an emotion and what are the characteristics of emotions. Whenever we talk about emotions, we also hear a word called EQ. It is something, emotion quotient is something similar to IQ. IQ is intelligent quotient, what a person is born with. EQ also, to some extent, we do have intrinsic genetic trait, component when it comes to EQ. But the beauty of EQ is it can be trained and it can be enhanced. So if we have our intention or the will to work on our emotions, we can definitely do that. So, and EQ is a combination of EI and ER, that is emotional intelligence and emotional regulation. So let us try to understand what is EI and ER. Emotional intelligence is like, it's all emotional. Yeah. So how do we assess, before that, let us understand how do we assess emotional quotient. As we assess it in three ways. One is by understanding the person's ability to understand their own emotions. Then by trying to assess or understand the capacity or the skill of the person when it comes to other emotions. And also trying to understand how a person reacts or to his own or the others' emotions when there is a situation which is challenging and it can't be changed. So under these three aspects, we can understand or we can assess the EQ level of a person. Moving on to the next slide. So as I said, EQ has two components, EI and ER. EI is, that is emotional intelligence, is knowing about one's own self, emotions, my own emotions, being aware of my own emotions. At the same time, having the sensitivity to understand the emotions of the person with whom I am interacting. Okay, that is emotional intelligence. Having the knowledge of emotions of mine as well as others is emotional intelligence. Emotional regulation is trying to understand or having a knowledge, insight about how do I use my emotions. That is, am I in charge of my emotions or the emotions are in charge of my life? So if I have a clear picture of this, then I know what are my emotional regulation skills. So that is ER. Then moving on to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is very, very important. So we understood what are emotions, characteristics of emotions, components of emotions, and how EQ is assessed. After this skill set in anybody's life is very, very important. That is, one is intrapersonal emotional skills set, and the other one is interpersonal skills. So let us try to understand what is intrapersonal and interpersonal. As the name itself indicates, intrapersonal is internal, something within me. So all related to my self-awareness, self-image, self-concept, all comes under intrapersonal. And the next part of this is, am I happy with that? So intrapersonal talks all about self-acceptance, self-image, and am I aware of my strengths and weakness? Am I aware of my sensitive emotions and strong emotions? So anything related with self comes under intrapersonal skill set or intrapersonal relationship. This is very, very important, because unless I know about myself, I can't deal with others' emotions. So we all need to work on this very much. So please, whenever you get time, at least if you are already aware of it, wonderful. That means you have managed your life and emotions very well. In case you come across any challenging situation where you feel you are lost, or you know, a little disturbed, it is better to make some exercise related to intrapersonal relationship. For example, trying to understand, in this given situation, if I am unhappy, is it because of my emotions or the thoughts, and am I okay with these kind of emotions and all that. So this is about intrapersonal. Then interpersonal skill sets are when I am sensitive to others' emotions, with whom I interact on a day-to-day basis. It may be my family members, it may be my neighbors, or even my maid servant, or my colleagues, or in the neighborhood, with whomever I interact, because any interaction will be positive and productive only I am a sensitive person. When I can understand their emotion and my emotions, and I balance that properly and respond to that and maintain that without hurting their emotions, then that interaction becomes a very enjoyable and fruitful interaction. We all know that. There is no argument about it. So for that to happen, we need to have a set of skills. There are many, but these four are very, very important, which we are going to discuss now. One is empathy. I hope you all know the difference between empathy and sympathy. Can you write it down? Or any volunteer, one of the participants can volunteer to explain the difference between empathy and sympathy.
Empathy is putting myself in others' shoes and looking from their perspective at a situation. And sympathy is feeling sorry about the other person. Am I right, ma'am?
Yeah, that is the perfect definition. Shall we have an activity? I need 2 volunteers now other than Krupa from the participants. Okay. Can you just put them on the video, Krupa, if possible? Only 2 volunteers who volunteer. Who wants to volunteer with a thumbs up? Possible?
Yeah, we'll try that, ma'am.
We'll try that, or 2 on the chat window. They can also type. So I want 2 participants to volunteer now and suggest an activity.
Sonali is ready. So we need one more.
Unmute Sonali, please. And another one.
Yeah, Geetakshi is ready.
Okay, Geetakshi and Sonali, you are going to volunteer for this activity. Okay, so let us unmute them. I want Geetakshi to suggest one activity to Sonali to perform in front of participants now. Don't think too much. Anything whichever comes to your mind, just suggest one activity to Sonali. Geetakshi is going to suggest one activity to Sonali.
Sonali, hi.
Yeah, hi.
Can you please sing for us?
Wonderful. Okay. Don't sing now, Sonali. Hold back.
Okay.
We'll make you sing later at the end of the session, maybe. Yeah. And now, Sonakshi will suggest one activity to Sonali. Did I write? I mean, the other way around. Who has suggested now? Am I okay with the names? Did I mix it up?
Geetakshi, Sonali.
Okay. Yeah, please.
So, hi, Geetakshi.
Hi.
Yeah, I just want you to demonstrate, what's being done in a laughter club and help us laugh.
Okay. So, do some... Did you get understand what she was asking?
You mean I have to do something, I have to crack some jokes so that others can laugh?
No, I mean, there are these laughter clubs, right? Where they involuntarily laugh just for your good health and everything. There's a laughter club in gardens and all they conduct normally.
Yeah.
They just randomly laugh, without reason. So because it's a good kind of relax, a stress buster. So I just want you to do it, start for us, and then we'll continue.
Wonderful.
Okay.
So both of you no need to do that. Just hold back again. And please, what I'm going to now say, that don't take it personally. It is just an example, including me, to understand what empathy is all about. When Sonakshi suggested Sonali suggested Gitakshi to enact so that others laugh. Am I right? This was the thing you asked her. Okay. Then you can unmute them because I want them to respond to this. Okay. So when she asked, was the other person who was suggested to do the advice or asked to do that, was she comfortable doing this? Are you used to laughter clubs? Sonakshi? Gitakshi, sorry.
Ma'am, no.
No, you are not. Do you know Sonali personally?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. When you suggested Sonali to sing, was Sonali comfortable singing in front of the participants?
Hello.
Hello, Sonali. Are you comfortable singing in front of the participants here?
Actually, ma'am, I'm a classical singer, so.
Sorry?
I'm a classical singer, so I love singing, ma'am.
Excellent. But did Gitakshi knew about this talent of yours?
Not at all.
Not. But it was good actually. I mean, it is a, what do you say? It's a fluke that you are a good singer, right?
So
It's a coincidence. It saved you rather. Suppose if she had asked me to sing, I would have been very nervous because I don't know how to sing. I'm a good listener of music. That's it. So what I'm trying to tell is, before suggesting this activity, when you didn't even know each other personally, you just suggested activity even before thinking, is this person capable of doing what I am asking her to do?
Yeah, ma'am.
Right? So this is the basic fundamentals of being empathetic. What I'm trying to, I'm not criticizing it. As I said, don't make it personal. What I'm trying to do is, many a time in our lives, we expect people to do things even before understanding whether they can do it or not. Or do they have that skill or the talent or the mood or the time to do this, what I'm expecting them to do? So this is how we lack empathy. It starts in a very neutral way, but later on, as we grow up, it gets conditioned and it becomes very rigid. That is when we people become little not empathetic. We are not empathetic to so many issues around us in our lives and in our personal life as well as our professional life. So what I'm trying to tell is, please try to understand that whatever I expect from others, if the same person expects me to do that, am I capable of doing that? If you start doing this exercise, we are all going to be empathetic. And one more thing, what I want to say is being empathetic is a human character which we are all born with this. But only thing is, we need to fine tune it now and then, because we have lost it because of our mechanical way of lifestyle. Am I clear? Okay. Now moving on to the social skills. Social skills are a way of interaction with our social environment, which is very, very important. It has set norms and all. So when we say interpersonal limits, how much I can interact, how much I can expect other person to interact with me. So being aware of all the social norms, social culture, social etiquettes comes under social skills. How to behave outside the house when people around, how do I communicate, how do I conduct myself, all this fall under social skills. Then comes IPR skills. IPR skills is again an interpersonal relationship skill. It's very, very important. Many a time, lot of marital issues, family issues, personal emotional challenges are because of not having proper interpersonal relationship skills. That means where I don't understand myself as well as I don't even understand the other person. As a result of my IPR suffers. Then the fourth one is very, very important, assertive skills, where I know the art of telling no without hurting others. That's very important. And we also need to understand telling no is not wrong at all. Actually, it is very good, so that the other person knows genuinely how much I can help and how much I can't. It gives a very clear picture, and being transparent of ourselves. That is assertiveness, telling no without hurting others. Then adaptability. So adaptability is one wherein we need to be realistic to expect from the situation, from the environment, from the person with whom we are interacting, to know the situation, person in a realistic way. And at the same time, suppose it won't match our perception, or the expectation, we need to be flexible. We need to realign our expectations or perception. That is realistic and flexibility, that is adaptability. So these three are very, very important in our emotional regulation or emotional well-being aspect. Then moving on to our next slide. Okay, which is the next slide, Rupa? Next slide, please. I think some.
Next,
Okay.
we go on to the strategies. Good emotional.
Oh yeah, come to the strategies for good emotional management skills. So, what are the strategies? There are many, but these are all the things which are basics. Like, if you are okay with this, if you master these things, at least 80% of our emotional regulations are taken care of. As a result of that, your emotional well-being is ensured. The first and foremost one is the introspection of self and experience. We need to make time for introspecting ourselves now and then. It is like, something you have kept a lot of things in your wardrobe, but now and then you need to check what are there, and do I need to retain so many things, or do I need to edit something, and all that. So that is introspection of self and experience. 1 minute, please close the door. Introspection and the self, and then the interest, when we do that, we will understand, we get a proper insight about the whole situation. Because if we don't do this exercise, many a time we will become very impulsive. So we need to develop skill of introspecting of self before I start analyzing others. The thumb rule and the basic rule is that I need to analyze myself. Everything should start with me. Then only life becomes easier for us to manage, and it becomes easy for others to deal with us. So, but unfortunately, we always point fingers at others first, forgetting that the remaining 4 fingers are pointed towards us. So let us change that at least now. So we need to start with us. That is analyzing ourselves and also analyzing the experiences. When I start doing that now and then I know what to keep in my learning memory, or what I need to just delete as a even situational reaction. Then moving on to respond and not to react. Do you know the difference between responding and reacting? Very clear with what you want to say as a response to a situation or a human, so that there is no misunderstanding, or there is no complications. For example, reacting is where you are the whole response is loaded with overwhelming emotions, or your own ideas and views, not even understanding how it is going to affect the other person. So that is reacting. For example, to quote an example, it is something like, okay, let us say that I'm going with my friend. All of a sudden I have a discussion where my friend tells something about myself. She tells, Usha, I didn't like the way you conducted yourself in the interview or meeting. The response, if I respond, I would be like, what do you what made you think like that? But I thought I was okay with my response. I responded like, I behaved like that because this is what I was thinking. This is response. Instead of that, if I say, you always do that, I know that you don't like me at all, so come on, I did a mistake of dealing with you, all that. This is where I'm already trying to influence her statement, telling that, generalizing her behavior based on my past experience with her, whatever it is, where I'm involving a lot of emotions to that, and I'm becoming very reactive. So when I become responsive, it opens the communication channel. Actually, after she questions me something and I respond, we move on to the next stage where we will discuss instead of debating. As a result of this, I treat that as a feedback, and I also work on that. Suppose I don't think it's a good feedback, I can just let it go without even getting affected. That is the beauty of being responsive. But when I react, the discussion ends as a debate, and it gets very personalized, and we don't agree to disagree. So as a result of this, neither it helps me to take it as a feedback, or it helps me to maintain the relationship with that person. So this is the difference between being responsive or being reactive. So in any given situation, if you are challenged or questioned, just be responsive and don't be reactive. Then separate the thoughts and the feelings. The exercise what we did in the morning, and then mean what you say. In any emotional, the moment I say emotional regulation, emotional management, intrapersonal relationship, there is one very important component called as trust. Wherever there is a trust, there is no need for explaining things to people. It saves your energy, time also. It makes you feel good and confident, secured in the presence of that person. So that means we need to develop trust. How does it start? We need to mean what we say. Walk the talk, what we call as talk the walk and walk the talk. So when people, when we develop this habit or the characteristic, then we make it very clear to people. I always stick to whatever I say. So with conviction, I talk to you. You know, I promise anything, I stick to that. I give a word to you, I stick to that. So that means I'm committed to my words. This is very, very important for any relationship. That is how the trust is built, right? The relationship without a trust is really very difficult to manage. So you need to build this trust. Then be empathetic. So we understood the difference between being sympathetic and empathetic. Empathy is where we feel before we expect anything. As a thumb rule, use this: before you expect anything from anybody, you need to understand their background. And also, if I am put in that position, am I able to do those things? Am I able to satisfy the expectations of others? That is being empathetic. Be a good listener. Very, very important. Listening has two types of listening. One is active listening and one is passive listening. Active listening is where I listen more from the point understanding what that person is telling me rather than what I should respond. Okay, so being mindful of whatever I hear and being there. That is active listening. Passive listening is which we usually say, no. See, when child is talking, a father sitting with a newspaper in his hand, or looking at the TV and just nodding his head. That is, and even the mothers cooking something in the kitchen. When somebody is talking, we are more just nodding our head, but we are just hearing. So passive listening is nothing but hearing. Active listening is being mindful and being then and there at that moment. That is active listening. Then think before talking. We all have to practice this. That means it cuts down our impulsivity. What to say, when to say, how to say, and the most importantly, when to stop. Sometimes we don't know when to stop saying something. So we need to restrain ourselves from that. So that is think before talking. And then of course, being assertive, I explained already, where telling no without feeling guilty or without feeling others, hurting others. Moving on to the next one, please. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Okay, I think I need to check. Know the difference. Okay. This is very important. This is something like, you know, simple self checking, assessing tools. If I know this about myself and about others, my emotional regulations will be better. My emotional intelligence will be at its peak. As a result of that, my emotional relationship with anybody will be very good. As a result of, there'll be less challenges, less hardship in my life. Okay, I can manage myself and my life very well. So what is that? Knowing the difference between being assertive and aggressive. Can anyone explain that? What is aggression? There's a very thin line between all these 8 things what I have listed. Being aggressive is where I want to prove my point at any cost. And I have lot of my self-perceived evidences behind that. When I say self-perceived, sometimes it may be real or it may be my assumption. So when I become aggressive, I don't even understand or don't even make efforts to understand, is it really what the reality is? So that becomes being aggressive. Then assertive is knowing everything, facts about the situation and reacting. Then feedback and criticism, we all know what a feedback is. It has a threshold. Once it crosses that, it becomes a criticism. Feedbacks gives opportunity to work on our feedbacks, whereas criticism shuts off people. They make people close, and it is very, very negative in the counter productivities. Then being straightforward and being blunt. Many people sometimes talk very rudely and bluntly, and when they're questioned, they say, I'm sorry, which is not right. There is a very thin line between being straightforward and being blunt. I think I don't need to give example for that, or when we discuss, we can, if anybody has doubt about these things, you can ask me, then we can discuss about that. Then the thin line between, we need to be aware of being concern and curiosity. Concern is where I'm really worried about someone and I ask questions, do you need any help? Are you okay? Something like that. Curiosity is prodding. So many a time people do that under the name of concern, they become curious and they think it can't be understood by people. Please don't do that. People are very sensitive. They can understand. So and do understand where to stop. That's what I was telling. We need to know where to stop. If I don't know that, my concern becomes my curiosity. Then humor and mockery. Humor is where I don't make just others laugh, but I can also laugh along with others. Whereas in case of mockery, I'm having fun at the cost of others, which is really not right. And then being helpful and gullible, being helpful, being there for people when they need us, but also we need to be aware when I can be taken for granted. So that is being gullible. If I don't know that, I think I'm being helpful and I want to become a sacrificial goat or a very good person, good lady, good son, good father, whatever you name it. And actually it is being gullible. Then confidence and arrogance. Confidence is where I am aware of my strengths and I know how to manage those strengths for the better purpose. Arrogance is where I am confident, I want to prove that I'm better than others and making others feel insecure or inferior. Self-care and selfishness. I'll just give you one example for this. Self-care is, just imagine yourself, particularly mothers, you're all water jets. You want to always be there to satisfy the thirst of the family and the children. Okay, energy part I'm talking about. But you need to keep refilling the water jet so that you are there when the family needs you. Is refilling your energy with me time, personal hobbies and all that. That is self-care. Selfishness is, you all know that, being happy or having my own comforts at the cost of disturbing others or at the cost of others' happiness. But we need to know that taking self-care is very much essential and it is not selfishness. Moving on to the next slide. Yeah. Effects of unresolved emotions. We know that depression, anxiety, psychosomatic are three major emotional illness, which has direct impact on our physical health also. Depression is where we have continuously, we will feel sad, we will feel low in our life, but sometimes when it becomes a constant figure, then it affects our functionality and day-to-day activities. Then it is called as depression. Anxiety is where I assume things more than what they are, and I'll be in an alert mode to address that, thinking that there'll be danger, there'll be some kind of a difficulty for me. That is anxiety. Then psychosomatic is where my emotions are so unresolved, so much unresolved and pent up. It starts reflect, because anything kept inside has to come out. Okay, so if I don't do it through a proper channel, it starts coming out in the form of physical ailments. That is psychosomatic. Next slide, please. Where people won't fake the illness, they do feel the pains, aches, but unfortunately it has no physiological cause, but it's more to do with the suppressed emotions. Strategies to overcome these challenges. We usually, when anybody comes to us, we tell them, whenever they say that I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling anxious, we tell them that is the behavior. Feeling sad or the anxious is the behavior part. As I said, behavior can be either through actions or through communication style, whatever it can be. So there is something called ABC model to understand our own actions. The A is antecedent, the triggering factor, and the behavior, B is behavior component, C is consequence. So if every time when I'm not comfortable about my own behavior, it is better to use this model. As a result of that, I will understand what are the antecedents, the triggers for that, and what is the consequence of that. And if I'm not happy with the consequence, I can change the trigger so that my behavior also gets changed. So this is called as ABC model of behavior modification, because many a time in the first slide only we understood action, that is behavior has impact on our thoughts has in fact influence on our feelings, and they are interconnected. So if I change my behavior, modify my behavior, it also changes my thought process and my feelings associated with that, so that I can manage my thoughts and feelings better. We use this in CBT and many other techniques. Then identify the challenges and explore the options. Please always think God gives you a problem, He always gives you solutions. It is something like, we can't just have locks, we need to have the keys, right? So in challenging times is like where we have misplaced the keys. That's it. We need to find out which key fits into which law. So it is as simple as that. So identify the challenges and explore the options so that you can resolve the emotional challenges. Write and rewrite. So when we are upset, when we are depressed, when we are anxious, or when we are having some illness, we always have some kind of an inner dialogue, internal mental statement, like, I'm a failure, I can never manage myself, I'm unlucky, I'm not as lucky as others. These are all the statements, negative statements, which we write in our mind about ourselves. When I say rewrite, it is changing those statements into a more positive one, but a realistic one. When I'm feeling defeated, it would be better to say that it is life. This is how life is. Some kind of setbacks are there. So this is rewriting the statement in my mind. And being realistic is, when I feel defeated, I can't say I'm successful. That means it is not realistic. So rewrite the statement of inner dialogue of yours in a very realistic but a positive way. You can do this by journal writing, which helps a lot, by talking to your friends and family. It's a wonderful self-improving exercise. Then taking baby steps and counting your blessings, which is very, very important, because let us take each day as it comes. Let us set the goals. Okay, by 3 months I should be out of this mental status. That is the final goal. But the short-term goals we should set up. Okay, today I was not even able to get out of my house. I feel so low. I don't feel like dressing up. My immediate goal should be, tomorrow morning I will go out and talk to a few people or go for a walk. And when I do that, I appreciate myself. So that is called taking baby steps, taking each day and working for each day as short-term goals. Count your blessings. Please, the moment, all of you should realize this, the moment we start counting our blessings, we know that we are much, much privileged compared to others. And for that to happen, how do I start counting my blessings? When I know the difference between needs and wants. And if all my needs are met, that means I'm lucky enough. I can give you many cases. When I look at when I go to regular mainstream schools, parents' questions will be, how do I make my child score 95? He scored 93, I'm upset. A lot of such things. And they're always unhappy. In turn, the children also, kind of stressed out, and they're also unhappy. So I make them understand, find out the difference between need and fit. It may sound little ironical, but I give them the example of special children, because since I'm associated with working with special children in special schools, I tell them, count the blessings of your child. Scoring 95% is a want of a mother. I don't know whether the child wants it or not. Many times parents want it. But the need is met. The child is physically able, mentally able. So the basic need is met, and he's got much more than he's reading. He's able to go to a school. He can score 93%. So that is fine. But 95 is want. So that is how, for everything. Having a car is a need, maybe in Bangalore city for a better transportation thing, convenience. But I want a Mercedes is a want. So that is how, once we know how to differentiate between needs and wants, we start counting our blessings. Gratitude and affirmations, very, very important. Gratitude is where I'm grateful to whatever I have been blessed with, instead of always cribbing about what I don't have. So focusing more on what I have. Then learn to accept disappointments. As I said, nobody's life is perfect, so there will be always ups and downs. That's why life is beautiful. There is always ups and downs, and we, instead of just enjoying, we also make efforts to convert negatives into positives. And a lot of physical activity is very important, and counseling and support. Yeah, whenever you are emotionally upset, emotionally challenged, it's better you have some kind of dialogue or discussion with someone who is non-judgmental and empathetic, either with a family or with a therapist. Moving on to the next slide, please. Okay, stress management. We all know that there are two kinds of stress. One is self-imposed and one from the environment. So there are 4 things which I have listed. There are many techniques. You might have your own techniques, but these are the tested ones, which are practiced ones, which has given good results. Stress resistant, that is not led by the emotions. Being prepared and to know which are unavoidable stresses for which I need to be mentally conditioned to accept it, which are the avoidable stresses where I need to work on that. Then impulse control. Whenever there is a stressful situation, don't react immediately. Think about your responses, options for your responses and answers, and also the consequences. Once you are aware of the consequences, you can modify your responses, and that will reduce the stress. And 4A strategies is avoid, alter, accept, and adapt. To give an example, usually I give this very silly but true example. Having someone at home, one person in the family or in my work atmosphere, who creates a lot of stress in my life. It can be a mother-in-law, father-in-law, my own daughter, my own son, or my employer or my employee, it can anybody, just to quote it as an example. So how do I apply 4A there? Can I avoid? First and foremost, when I get stressed out because of that person X, try to apply these 4A's. One is, can I avoid this person in my life? If I can avoid it, nothing like it. But if I can't avoid it, can I alter? That means, can I alter my interaction time with him, or how do I alter the situation wherever there's a person? Do I sit with them, get irritated, or I just move out of that situation or that scene, something? So altering the situations. Then the third thing is, I can't do that. Neither I can avoid that person nor I can alter my interaction with that trigger. Then in that case, better accept it. Yeah, this is how it is going to be. I'm going to be with this person or this environment for some time. Once I accept that, I develop with adaptable skills, like how much to take in, how much to let it go, how I become emotionally detached with them, but I'm there as a human relationship will be there, but emotional relationship I will reduce. That is adaptability. Then develop a sense of humor, very, very important. You can smile, but laughing is very, very therapeutic. Moving on to the next slide. COVID-19 situation. Unfortunately, we are in a situation where stress, anxiety are all becoming components of our day-to-day life. Just remember these 8 points. There is change, lifestyle and dynamics of life. We need to accept that, and it is not in our control. The moment I accept that, my struggle becomes lesser. I don't try to change that. I accept that and try to adapt required skills to live with that. Then need for realigning roles. Yes, men who are always away, they are going to be at home. Women who had their own personal space, now they have compromised personal space. Mothers who had their own me time between 10 to 3, they have to now share the time with others. These are all realigned roles, but we need to adapt to that without resistance. Then redefining personal space, which I said now, the personal space also compromised because all of us are confined within the 4 walls. And then overwhelming information. Please avoid news media, newspaper, TV channels, TV9, whatever it is, kind of thing, which always gives more than what is required information, or they twist the information. Avoid those overwhelming information. Uncertainty, yes, it is a very uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen next month, but please remember, it is not just for you. We are all together in that, and this is also going to, nothing is permanent. Even this phase is going to change. And then home confinement. Many people, when they are coming for counseling, they say, I don't know what to do sitting at home. I feel so bored. I feel so depressed. I tell them, use this as a bonding time, because many a time we creep that we have everything, but we don't have time. So maybe God gave us everything now in the form of time, but other things He has taken away. So it is always like this. We have something, so it is always sensible to make use of that. So use this home confinement as a bonding time to develop good bonding with our family and others, and also to develop hobbies and all, for which we thought always we didn't have time. Then set a daily routine, very, very important. Just because we are at home, please don't have very erratic timings. Get up at the correct time, what you decide or what you used to do. Have set routine, because usually routine gives us security. So there is a predictability. After this, what I'm going to do. So it gives kind of discipline and also security. As a result of that, we are less stressed. Then be spiritual. I think I don't need to talk about it much, because our whole Vedanta, Hindu culture, Asian culture talks about it all the time. So please be spiritual, go beyond rituals and look at life as something which has a bigger picture and just one of the part in the whole picture. So change your views about life, go a little more deeper than what you see and what you hear. I think if we all manage this, we can manage this COVID-19 situation also. And keep smiling. Smile is one of the best medicine to feel good about it and to take care of our emotional well-being. That is the basic requirement, prerequisite. Okay, so keep smiling. Any questions?
Thank you for that wonderful insights, ma'am. I think we now move on to the question and answer session. Can we, ma'am, with your
Yes,
permission?
please. Yeah, I think I have taken a little more time. Sorry.
That's
Yeah.
So we have a first question from Miss Ruchi. She says that she has a social anxiety disorder.
Okay.
That's all her question is. So
See, actually, it can't be just answer this list, but what I can tell you is to start with from today, whenever you feel anxious with relation to a social environment or the situation, try to establish a pattern, because even though you say you have social anxiety, there are different areas in social interaction. So is it, see, professional interaction, or if you are a working lady, is it in your professional life when you interact with in your office or in your work atmosphere, you are getting that anxiety, or is it in the family social interaction, or it is in your among your friends or relatives, the second level of contacts. So identify where exactly you feel more anxious, so list the triggers for that. Then next, since you already know that you are anxious about that, try to understand when did it actually start, what was the cause, and is it that, do you think that you can't manage this? So what are your coping up skills you have developed till date for those kinds of triggers? Then if they have not helped you, that means you need to explore more coping up skills, options, and start addressing every anxious moment in a very confident way. That means you can do some mental rehearsal. Usually we tell people, suppose I go out and I talk to, CBT is also used, then you feel anxious, you just smile at the, so when I'm anxious, I can't smile. So in CBT, we say you first start your conversation by smiling at the person. Stage fear is also addressed like that. When people become very anxious, we tell them start your speech with a joke or a smile. So you try to do the actions which you would never do in a given situation, something more reassuring for yourself. But it is a, you need to, it can be addressed. Sorry, I missed your name. Preeti?
Ruchi, ma'am.
Ruchi. In this common platform, it is very difficult to say that. Only thing is, what I say is, you need to start with your own introspection, analyzing, and try to establish ABC model, and talk to someone about that, and have a thumb rule that whenever you feel anxious, you will also try to justify that and find out whether this justification is reality or your assumption. You start doing this rule, thumbs rule, we call it as. Whenever there is anxiety, is it my assumption of the situation, of the person, or is it a reality? If it is an assumption, you know that you have to just ignore that. If it is a reality, try to list out the evidences to substantiate that. That's all I can say for the time being.
I think your question is answered, Ruchi. For further clarification, you can definitely get in touch with
we need to know exactly the triggers. From when did it start? What triggers that?
We move on to the next question, which looks very interesting, ma'am. Sneha BS is asking us, can an emotional conflict be dealt with by simply not dealing with it? If you already know you will not be able to make peace with it, avoiding certain emotions, okay.
Come again? Avoiding your own
can
emotions.
emotional conflict be dealt with by not dealing with it?
No, actually, this is when, how long you can go on avoiding it. If you are assured it's only going to be one incident for the whole time or for 1 year, okay, you can avoid that. But what happens is, in any emotional conflict, it is, it is an outcome of some interaction or some kind of a perception. So unless you address the root cause by avoiding the situation or the outcome of that, it is not resolved. So which is not resolved is going to pop up a little later. So it is better you address wherever there is an emotional conflict. We always advise and suggest people to go to the root cause, the in depth, and understand that, and then resolve that, so that it is a permanent resolution. Something like that. Like diseases, I have regular fever, but I can manage that with Dolo. But unless I completely understand why I'm getting fever every day, it becomes a superficial management. Similar to that, any emotional conflict, you need to go to the bottom real cause for that and resolve it at that level, so that once forever you are free out of
Sneha,
that
I hope
situation.
ma'am has answered your question.
Did I make it clear?
We'll move on to the third question of the session, ma'am. Sonali here is asking, how do I combat depression? Plus, I'm a procrastinator. I keep shuffling careers. I do not stick to one.
Okay, so you are yeah, that is one of the side effects of what you said, characteristics of depression, where I don't have the emotional strength to face the situation, or assume. Not that I don't have. Many a time we assume things about ourselves. We undermine our own strengths. That is what we do. That's why we say when you are depressed or when you are anxious, is where we make challenges bigger than our capabilities. So we need to first and foremost need to change that equation, because as I said, every lock has a key, so every person has the capabilities. Only thing is you need to believe in yourself. So start with affirmations and start patting your, even a small success in your life, I mean in your career, wherever it is, start patting yourself, because if you become too critical, self-critical, it adds to the problem. So many a times we overgeneralize. Maybe you are overgeneralizing, stop doing overgeneralization. Stop doing comparisons, self-imposed comparisons. Stop assuming things that I am not capable, and problems are always going to be there bigger than my own capacity. And rewrite what I was telling. So start writing journals. Alter your negative thought process into realistic positive things. Set short-term goals. Start working on that, and definitely you can overcome this. And please do have someone with whom you can share your insecurities. That is very, very important. Sometimes what happens when we talk it out, we understand it better. That is the advantage of talking to people or writing the journal, because we happen to see it, or we happen to hear it again, rather than having the internal dialogue forever. So do that, but be careful to do it with a person who is non-judgmental.
Sonali, I hope your question is answered, Sonali. Now we move on to the next one. Ms. Madhura here is asking, I'm a postgraduate in English literature. I switched to arts after quitting engineering course from an NIT as I was in depression. I am happy with my choice,
Okay.
but it took a lot of time for my parents to cope with the situation because people kept commenting over my stupidity or on dropping out of engineering, as this often feels troubling.
You are still not, you have not accepted your own decision. I had to tell you this, I forgot to mention this. What is stress? This is more of a self-imposed stress is what I feel here, because when I talk about self-imposed stress, it is the gap between the real me and the projected me. Okay, the real me is one here, real you is one who would like to enjoy literature better, or who is not really into technical courses. That is your real passion, real interest. But the projected one is being an engineer and all, to satisfy the expectations of the other people. So if the gap is more, and if you're not accepted and you don't stand up for your own self image or passion, then you always give kind of value for others, or you need external validation. Not required. If you have made a decision and you feel that was the field you want chosen and you wanted to work with that, I don't think you don't need to worry much about how people perceive your challenges, I mean decision, because at the end of the day it is your life. So let us listen to people's advices and suggestions to the extent we need to listen to them, or we need to appreciate it. Beyond that, there should be a limit and a boundary where you have to make your own independent decisions. So stick to your passion, stick to it. Is always better. I work for it. I work where my passion lies rather than where my mind lies. That's what we always say, because people who are passionate about their career are the very happy people and very productive people, rather than people who are sticking to one particular career out of compulsion. So I think you have done a good decision if you think that is what you wanted in your life. Don't expect validation from others.
I think a lot of us got our questions answered with that question, ma'am. I should be thanking the participant. We now move on to the next one. How to come out of anxiety and depression with uh, re-greeting some person in past life? Ms. Shilpa, if you can briefly a little more clearer and typing the question again, we would love to take it up again. Ms. Shilpa Riker. It says how to come out of anxiety and depression. So we can take up Yogita now. Yogita says,
should I take that how to
OCD of...
Sorry, should I take Yogita's question or how to address depression and anxiety?
Yeah, I think we can take up the first part of the question, ma'am.
Okay, how to address depression and anxiety?
How to come out of anxiety and depression.
Yeah. So how to cope up with?
Come out of.
Okay. Come out of depression. See, first and foremost, start doing self-helping exercises like writing journals and doing a lot of physical exercise, and whichever you can do on your own, and if it is giving you results, that means you are on the right track. Sometimes when I start working with my own insecurities, knowing very well what I have to do, even then if I feel that I'm not getting the expected result, then the second level would be to go to a therapist. So that, or who is a therapist? Therapist is someone who just mirrors your thoughts and feelings, they reflect your thoughts and feelings. That's all we need most of the times. We don't need advisors. We need to understand how my thought process is happening and what are my feelings as well. So once I get a clear picture of that, I will also, and if someone makes me understand, or if I develop an insight, which are the thoughts I need to remove from my mind, or which are the feelings I need to modify. If I learn this skill, anxiety, depression, anything can be addressed. So before that, again, I want to say that never ever underestimate your capacities. That is very, very important. Don't go by what people say. Don't overgeneralize. And don't be a self-critic. There is a big world waiting to criticize us. Why do I need to give support to that? It doesn't mean that be indifferent, but at the same time, you need to know how much to take in and how much to let go of it. You need to have that editing screen in your mind, because many a time our image and our self-image concept is influenced by external statements, people's messages. So you need to be very aware of that. And please do a lot of healthy lifestyle exercises, like good exercise diet. That helps a lot actually. Have an active life. And simple thing is, from today start writing down thoughts. I mean the thoughts which makes you anxious or depressed. Identify the thoughts first. Then we will think about how you can address that. Okay, because there is always a pattern actually. There is a sequence. Only in such situations, this kind of thoughts and feelings crop up in our mind. So try to make a journal of things. What incidents, what kind of people, what kind of environment, or acts of mine or others makes me think these kind of, I feel sad or I feel anxious. So before that, what happened? So make a journal. Start with a journal writing. It helps a lot.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much. We now move on to Yogita's question. I'm taking treatment for OCD of repetitive thoughts since last 15 years. I don't know the root cause. The root cause can be CBT therapy. Sorry, I do not know the root cause.
Okay.
Can CBT therapy help the pill? Can CBT therapy help? The pill is helping me, but need to know if it is just suppressing the thoughts. Can I get rid of wrong beliefs which has set in?
You should. It is not can I, you should. There is no option. As I said many times, it is me who victimize myself. And we are not ready to accept that. As I said, we accept our issues, when we accept ourselves as we are, and we accept the responsibility we need to take up to address our own issues, half of our problems comes down. Otherwise, it will be forever a blame game because of this person, because of my profession, because of my employer, or because of my pet dog. I get into stress sometimes. These are all reasons where I'm not very clear about what is causing this in me. And unfortunately, most of the times, my wrong perceptions about myself creates a lot of problem in me. So we need to you start working on self-awareness. That helps you a lot. So find out, first let us list strengths, what you are good at, make a list of them. Now immediately, if you have a pen and paper, write a certificate for yourself. So suppose, imagine somebody is giving a certificate. How do they do? So he use some minimum 2 to 3 adjectives to define certify yourself. So start appreciating yourself. When you start appreciating, you start accepting yourself. And believe me, no person is without any good qualities or strength. God has made us beautifully. Only thing is, we are not able to recognize that. Have a mirror talk. Whenever you feel low or whenever you feel negative, stand in front of a mirror early morning and start appreciating. Look straight into your eyes and say that you are good. Use your name. Suppose I need to do that. Stand in front of the mirror after my morning prayers and then say, Usha, today you are good. Yeah, what you did was very good. Yesterday you managed it very well. So appreciate yourself, whatever you do. That helps a lot in motivating ourselves to believe in ourselves. It's all very simple basics. So very generalized, general tips what I'm giving, because these are all issues where we need to go to the root cause. For that, we have to sit face to face and address this. But in general, this is what you have to do. Start accepting yourself, appreciating yourself, and know where to draw the line. You need to have the emotional regulation and maturity to, with whom I need to be emotionally attached, with whom it should not be. It should be just a human relationship. Know the difference between human relationship and emotional relationship. Do all this exercise. Differentiate between thoughts and feelings. And ABC, we try to understand. Start with appreciating it. That's all I can say for the time being.
Thank you, Usha ma'am. We now move on to Preeti Jain, who's asking how to deal with emotional and verbal abuse.
Oh my God. See, whenever we say there is an abuse, there are two components. One is the exploiter and the another one is the victim. Unless the victim takes abusers from an abuser, it can't continue. Okay. The moment someone verbally, what is a verbal abuse? Where people use insensitive words to put you down or to make you shaky or make you feel bad about yourself, feeling self-worthiness and not worthy of self. So whoever plays emotional games with you or who tries to tell that you are not okay are not the people whom you need to encourage in your life. Why do you need to even have such people in your life? Protect yourself. This is what I was telling, taking care of self. So how do you deal with it? Being, first and foremost, being very assertive. The second thing is self-respect. Develop self-respect. Wherever there is a self-respect, we don't allow people to abuse us, because I know what I am worth of. Okay, I know how to protect myself. Develop that, and start with being very assertive. Just say stop. If somebody is standing on your leg, what do? How do I deal? Will you question or go to your therapist asking, how do I deal with somebody standing on my leg with their shoes? I immediately take away my leg, or I push that person's leg aside, right? It's as simple as that. If somebody is abusing you emotionally and verbally, how do you deal with it? If somebody hits you, that's a physical abuse. What do? Same thing converted to this emotional and verbal abuse. Don't allow them. Don't tell them I'm not going to take it and you have no right to do this to me. Be very strong and assertive. Because first time can be a mistake. Second time it is actually intentional. So when somebody, if you abuse is a very strong word. Hurt is, if somebody hurts you first time, fine. Second time it may become abuse if you don't stop it. So make that person understand I don't take it. That's it. Very simple. Okay. They are family members.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your definition of family members? So you need to redefine your concept or the definition of family members. Who is a family member? A family member, according to me, is one who is emotionally supportive, who is emotionally sensitive for others' feelings, who takes care of the emotions of their brothers, sisters, or daughters, son, the way we take care of our emotions. And when they are in emotional distress condition, we support them. If anybody follows this, fits into these four things, they are our family members. Nobody is just a family member just because we were born together in the same family, right? So you redefine your, what is your meaning of family? A family is one which stands by you in all the time, in all the ways, emotionally, socially, and in whatever way you expect. but at least financially and all, I don't talk about it. That's entirely a different ballgame. But definitely, I call a family as a family only when they are with you socially, for social security and emotional security. If anybody is with you, they are your family. So you redefine and you tackle this.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Sneha is asking us, can you please share some tips on how to be consistent with the changes we bring in our behavior?
Okay. So journal writing helps a lot. Okay. Suppose, see, consistency is something actually sometimes it is someone's nature we are born with, but again it can be developed. So at least one plus point is we can, if we are not by nature like that, we can definitely work on that. This is a wonderful thing where it is self-awareness exercise. Again, I know these are the areas which are very important in life. For example, time management, punctuality, or not reacting when somebody is not really sensible. So you can identify, first and foremost, identify the areas where you think you need to work on. Then come to the next column and find out what is the frequency of those incidents or your behavior. You find out, is it on the higher side, or is it once in a while we all have this, okay, like inconsistent behavior, but it has not become a pattern to the extent that it starts bothering me. So find out the frequency of those occurrences, incidents. Then the third column should be, are you happy the way you are addressing that? If not, how you are going. So you need to plan. For example, I can just take one time management example or organization skill, being punctual or not procrastinating. So you will develop, write all these columns, and then what are the methods you are following now, why you are not able to address that, being aware of that, it's not going to help you having a quality of life. Then you have to change those practices. So identify the practices what you have been applying all this, which was not very helpful. And at this, with this kind of a thing, I think you're already matured enough what you need to do for that, right? What are the good practices to sustain that consistency? So start, like, what do you say, recording those practices whenever you do that, put a tick mark next to that every time you do that, and then be mindful of those things. When that situation repeats, you should be able to do that. But it is kind of, self-training. You can do it. Definitely you can do it. So maintain a journal, and then you will go on analyzing. By the end of the day, every day you will go through this journal, you will get to know that whether you are working well or you need to be a little more stronger in those practices.
Yeah, I think Sneha, ma'am has answered your question. We now move to Geetakshi's question. I am very fearful.
Yes,
When there is a fearful. When there is a situation of hearing someone's death news, or when I listen about any disease, I usually avoid talking about it. I am actually escaping from the reality. What should I do to overcome my fear and anxiety without escaping from the situation?
Okay. So for this, again, we need to go to inward journey, what we call as, this is a process where I need to go to the stage or the age of your life when you heard the first time any unfortunate news, any death or anything, how it was presented to you as a child. As a child, when was the first time you heard a news, very, remorseful news about someone's death or something? And what were the comments you heard from the adults around you about that particular event? Okay, how it was presented to you, this is very, very important. So as a child, this is what I perceive, my self-beliefs, I develop my belief system, or I perceive things based on what kind of messages I get from my environment. So please go back to your childhood. Which was the first time, if you can remember, a news of a death you heard, and what was the reaction from the significant adults in your life at that time? And as you started growing up, like, why did you feel, what made you feel that death is a very fearful act? Did you see someone suffering and dying, or after someone's death, other people paying a price for that or suffering? How did you perceive that whole thing? Because death is a very natural thing, and at this age, you should be able to accept that, right? Death is uncomfortable. Listening to news may be very uncomfortable, but it can't be fearful. So from where did that fear what do you say, that is fearful component got attached to that. You need to understand that only when you do that we can understand. As I said, only when we understand the triggers, we can change the consequence by changing our behavior. So you need to do this exercise. Go back to your childhood or younger ages. Starting from there, start listing which are the newses you heard about death or whatever it is, accident, death, or ill health, whatever it is, and how it was presented to you, and what was the feeling at that time. Then we can start addressing that. You need to go to the first time when that kind of a fear started generating it. Because you have perceived death as a fear, so you need to work on that.
Geetakshi, hope we have answered your question. We now move on to Mr. He says, my father gets annoyed with me very frequently. I do now.
Okay, so there are two components here. One is father getting annoyed. Okay, there is a behavior, your father's behavior. Since he is getting annoyed, you are also feeling very sad or you're feeling bad. That is your behavior, right? So the moment I say I need to apply ABC model, it is in general for anybody's behavior. If you don't want your father to get annoyed with you, find out what actually is making you, from your end, what are the contributing factors for your father to get angry with you, right? They are the triggers for his anger. So by changing that, naturally your father will not get angry. Suppose you feel, you assume, I want to use the word assume and feel, because most of the times when I am upset, because someone is upset with me, somehow I have little confused thoughts in my mind. That's what I'm taking the benefit of doubt. So if you think everything is okay from my end, but my father still gets angry with me, then find out, is it a misplaced anger from your father's side? He's irritated because of something, because it happens in the family circle. We take family for granted. Many a time we have misplaced anger, misplaced irritation, because we take family, we use them as the venting out channel, family members, because we have the liberty to do that. We assume it is not so actually, but we all think it is okay to be what we are. We justify. So find out whether it is you are contributing for his anger or it is a misplaced anger in him. Then it is easy to address that. Did I make
Mr.
it clear?
Saurabh, I think it was helpful for you. We now move on to Dr. Shravya. She says, ma'am, do you have any tips on how to convert your thoughts into actions? I plan and think multiple things, but getting myself to carry them out seems exhaustive. How can I be more efficient?
Okay, so how to convert thoughts into actions? Okay, so see, the thought, if there is a need, every thought need not be converted into actions. Okay, since you are asking a question like this, I assume you are a creative person or someone who wants to, who gets excellent thoughts, but you don't implement it. If I hope my understanding is clear, because yeah. So you are a creative person, or you are a person who get excellent thoughts, but you don't implement it. Then there is a kind of block there, mental block. Just find out what is, when you are aware of, see, this is a beautiful thing where you are already aware of that, you can make use of your thoughts. So something like having resources but not making use of it. So what is that coming in the way of that? So your self-awareness is already in place, but you need to work on that. So find out, is it fear of failure, or is it fear of getting ridiculed, or is it because you may not, the thought may not completely get transferred, translated into the picture you have in your mind? Then is it an unrealistic expectations from your own side or from others? Think of the areas, components or the features which are coming in the way of this translation of your thoughts into actions. Then you can start working on that. Many a time I find in these cases, there is a kind of inhibition because there is a fear of failure, or in the childhood or throughout somewhere you have not been appreciated for what you have been doing, or you have to do little extra work to prove yourself. Then you find these kind of inhibitions. I may not be completely, unless I understand exactly which are the thoughts. Can you, if you are comfortable, you can share your thought, or you can mail it to me, or get in touch with Prameya. We can address this. But usually this is it. Find out which is that insecurity feeling you have, because you want to work on your thoughts. You are confident. You know that it is going to help you, but still you are not able to do it. So why is that? Is it fear of failure? Many a time it happens. It doesn't matter. Give it a try. So what you can do is the other option would be start working out within yourself. If there is a thought which you can apply on yourself, first start with that. Then you make it outside you, where people see that or people acknowledge that. That can be the thing. Start with your own self. For example, the thought is, if you are a dancer, or if you are a swimmer, or if you are a singer, I'm going to start singing every day half an hour, dance for half an hour. So you start working on that. You feel happy about that or something. So start working with your own thoughts first at the personal level, then take it outside yourself.
Thank you, ma'am. I think Dr. Shravya will reply to us on the chat.
Okay.
Mr. Shirish says that he has the fear of loneliness, so it's very hard for me to make decisions.
Okay.
That's all the questions.
It's a very personal thing, but still in general, I do feel lonely when I don't, for many reasons. So we need to identify what kind of past experience you had. You feel lonely when you are with your family. What kind of people make you feel lonely? Because what is loneliness? When I don't feel connected to people around me, I feel lonely. When I don't get connected to what is happening around me, that means I feel isolated. I feel lonely. So is it because it is coming up because of your own assumptions about people and the environment based on your past experience, or is it because people are not accepting you the way you expect them to accept you? It might be complicated, but fear of loneliness is, the feeling of loneliness is always when I feel that I am not understood, I am not accepted. So you need to work on from where you got this experience, where you felt you were not understood or accepted, and it must have got continued. So as a result of that, this thought got reinforced in you. I think you have built a shell around you. Start breaking that first. Start interacting with people. Make contacts with non-judgmental people, or talk to people, or jot it down in the diary. So start a lot of self-improving exercises. Then I think you will be able to address this. But you need a bit of little more than this general tips. That's what I feel. But you can start working on yourself.
Mr. Shirish, if you want to get in touch with ma'am, you can please save the number on the screen. We can fix appointments with ma'am.
And stop criticizing yourself. One must thing. Don't evaluate yourself. When you do that, I don't take initiative myself first. Okay. So just be happy the way you are. First accept yourself. So let us, when we start celebrating ourselves, accepting ourselves, we can manage outside stress very well.
Ms. Suman Nayak here is asking, how do we reduce emotional dependency?
Very important. Emotional independency actually starts with, to be very frank, from a very young age, where I don't have, where as a child or anything, usually this is how it develops, is what we have studied. When every time you are not given enough opportunity to make decision, or whatever decisions you made were not appreciated or acknowledged, or it is always corrected. Many times we end up doing this, like because of, making the lives of our loved ones perfect, we don't know that there is a boundary to help them also, because sometimes we don't need too much of help. For example, as we say, under the banyan tree no new saplings grow up. It's a fact, because it gives such a vast shade and everything. It is so strong, but no other tree can grow up under that. Something similar to that, what happens sometimes in the family or in the outside friend circle, some people are so caring, so overprotective, they don't allow us to develop our own decision making skills and critical thinking skills. Then we start believing that every time I take a decision, I make a call, I do something, I do make a choice, it needs to be validated by someone, then it is fine. So I go on asking them, is it okay? What I did is right, what I did is right. No, I need that kind of, yeah, you are okay kind of an assurance. I need reassurance and validation from outside. So that is when my emotional dependency starts acting. So I become very dependent on them. So you can start with small things. If you have 10 decisions to make, list them as the priorities or the hierarchy wise. Start with the least one where your decision will not affect others. Take those things first to start with and make a decision, and you will make people who are in your circle to see the outcome of that before discussing your decision with them. Start this. Then you can slowly move forward. Start with a simpler one, decision making thing or action, whatever you want to do, where you don't need to justify why you need to do that. And let the people see the consequence of that or experience of that. And if they give any feedback, anything, I mean, this ask me, you should have done this, you can just take it as a feedback, or you can say that I felt like doing it. So be assertive and develop this kind of a decision making skills and slowly move forward. That helps being detached emotionally when it comes to decision making. Emotional dependency, I think you are asking in that reference, because dependency of anything is not very effective. I mean, it's not good is what we feel. Anything else?
Yes, Suman, we hope ma'am has answered your question. Now, Shilpa Riker is saying how to control anger and stubbornness in a child.
Okay. Sorry to say that it applies to everybody, including my own child. Whenever I talk about a child, I want to ask, how are the adults at home, anybody for that matter, or in the school, is someone who has no anger management skills or who is stubborn? Because children, many a time, though there is, as I said, there is a genetic component, but still 80% of this is an acquired one, these kind of behavioral traits. So if the child is seeing someone in the family who is very angry, who is a very angry person, or who is little stubborn, and because of his position in the family, he is able to sustain that, or other people accommodate that, then the child builds up that. That is one thing. So before we try to work with the child, we need to identify the significant adults in the family who have that, have a talk with them, and then try to understand where are this. How old is the child? Any
We
idea?
have no way of knowing it. Shilpa has not put down the age of the child, so maybe we
Okay.
can do.
Then if it is less, let's say if the child is still in the formative stages, use social stories to give this, because anger management is social values and also personal value, which we need practice, where we need to empower ourselves with that. So if the child is below 8 years, below 8 years, formative stages, start social stories. You can just say that 2 teddy bears, or that there were a group of teddy bears, or something like that. Whatever the child likes, that take that character, and in that create one personality or one figure, one role which has too much of anger, and how it spoiled the relationship, friendship with others, or how people mistook that character and all that. Use social stories. If the child is matured enough to understand, have a very common dialogue, very calm and a very neutral dialogue with the child when the child is receptive. And on top of that, stop giving too much of instructions, too much of corrections. When you start correcting child, many a time this is what we get. So in the name of making a child, we start breaking the child. Let us not do that. How do we do that? So if at all you want the child to do something, you set the boundary, but within the boundary, give the options. So the child will feel that I have the freedom to choose, but there is a defined boundary, something like that. Okay. So start practicing that, and also find out which are the things, areas where which makes him angry. So try to alter those triggers. And stubbornness is trying to prove a point. Maybe the child is not heard. So only when he becomes, stubborn people here to him. So find out which are the things which are contributing to this, because he's still a child. And I think a lot of things depend on the environment when we have child in the question.
Thank you, ma'am. Although it was the last question of the session, it was a very important message for all of us who are involved in parenting. With that, we come to the closure of the session. I would like to formally thank Usha ma'am again for that wonderful session she gave us. Thank you so much, ma'am. And I
Thank
also
you. It was a
thank all the
pleasure.
participants who logged in on time. And I hope the sessions have helped you. Thank you so much. Until next time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a nice session. Thank you.